Hello, and thanks for tuning in to another edition of Executive Corner Expert Talks here on Kalkine TV. Today, we're shining a light on NeuralSpace, and the best way to do that is to sit down with CEO Felix Laumann. Felix, thanks very much for joining me today.
Thank you, ma'am, very much, Holly, for inviting me.
Now, first and foremost, Felix, how exactly does NeuralSpace take care of a business's language processing needs?
So it's a very good question, Holly. We came up with a platform because we have seen that lots of businesses face language difficulties that may be due to not understanding the language in supply chain. It's a huge issue, right? When stuff is sent from China, let's say, to Europe, to the UK, there's obviously a huge language barrier in terms of communication. But they face many other problems, such as automatic communication. Sometimes you want to have a very immediate response to problems you have. And then something like chatbots can be extremely helpful. So we defined that platform. We call it a natural language processing platform, where all of the language AI capabilities are in one place. And that really goes all the way from translation, automatic translation, to language understanding, what can be used in a chatbot. But then even we have voice recognition systems, right? So when sometimes you have some kind of interface where you can only actually speak to that interface, for example, Amazon Alexa, then you obviously also want to have another AI solution that really captures that speech very accurately. So we have seen companies are kind of taking bits and pieces from here and there. And we actually said there must be a platform where all of these services that are related to language need to be combined. So we built a platform. It's still under development, large parts of it. Some of it is already live, but we also want to make it live in as many languages as we can. So at the moment, we have 95 languages. We are constantly looking to expand, want to reach something like 120 languages within the next 6 months.
That's incredible. And what does that process look like of adding those languages?
It is actually quite distinct for different languages. So at the moment, we target lots of languages that are spoken in Africa. We see, for example, Nigeria is a big market where there are at least 4 major languages, right? There's Yoruba, Igbo, and a few others. And we look a lot at the east of Africa, Tanzania, there's Swahili spoken, but then there's actually coastal Swahili. So it's not the most standard Swahili maybe. So you need to have lots of expertise in these areas. Data is very often scarce. So there's almost no data available for these languages. We do collect our own data a lot. So we really go into the fields, say, hey, we want to record your voice. We find your language phenomenal. We want to build some automation tools on your language. We give you some text, please read it out, right? They can be from local newspapers. They can be stuff like that. But it is very tricky to find that data. It's not like in English where you can scrape the internet. You have hours and hours of data available. It requires lots of manual work. And I haven't been in the field yet, but I may take a trip as well and really collect data with the people.
Well, I can imagine that. I mean, it sounds like a very complex and in-depth process, what you described just there. So I can imagine as well that it's perhaps difficult for companies like yourself to sort of get that array of languages. But you've got a head start there, I must say. Would you say that that's maybe the main thing, or just rather one of the things that makes NeuralSpace so distinctive in the market?
Yeah, there are actually 2 parts to it. One is definitely the data that we collect, which is quite a different approach to many others, right? So scraping data from the internet is what we have seen across many other companies, many of our competitors. With directly collating data by ourselves, we have obviously an advantage. And we actually also collect very often data that's spoken, that's kind of colloquial, where the younger generation is texting on WhatsApp also, right? So we see some kind of slangs very often incorporated. What people, for example, do in India a lot is they combine the local language with English. So there's even a term that's called Hinglish. So that's a mix of Hindi and English. In the Arabic-speaking world, there's something like Arabici, where people, again, use Arabic written in our English/Latin alphabet, and then mixed with some kind of English words, even maybe French words. And we see that across many different countries. And that kind of data is just not existing on the internet, right? When you scrape it, no newspaper will write in such kind of form. However, when you want to understand the local people, you kind of want to have the data. So that's one approach. And that's definitely what we double down on. Secondly, we have kind of the model architecture, right? There are underlying deep learning models that analyze the voice or the text and then give some kind of output. For example, what does a person want to have when, Holly, you are, for example, writing into an e-commerce chatbot, I would like to buy new Nike shoes, right? What does Holly actually want? When you just analyze, okay, there's Nike shoes, he probably wants to buy, and maybe she complains about the Nike shoes. So you need to have some deeper language understanding. And we built that model architecture that can analyze that language, also specifically for those languages that we target. So these are local Indian languages that are Arabic and different Arabic dialects and local African languages. You just fundamentally need to build the model in a different architecture when you have much less data available and when you want to really get to the gist of that local language, when you want to understand it deeply and really extract meaning and value out of those languages.
Right. I mean, you're absolutely right there. It's definitely, there's so much more to it than I think just the surface level of just, hearing and understanding these languages. They're really quite complex, as we discussed as well. And, language as well, it does change at a, fairly rapid pace. It can be fluid as well and difficult to keep up with, especially for new language learners. How do you tackle this problem?
So there's one approach that we have actually developed internally. We do that. So you are perfectly right, especially when we look kind of at the younger generation, some kind of slang they speak sometimes, right? Whatever, very short messages, but everyone knows whatever, how are you? You very often have how and then an R and then a U, right? No newspaper will ever write in that language. So you need to have data from those sources. And that is evolving, right? So whatever, 10 years ago, when I was a bit younger, we had generally like 4 as a 4, like as a number, right? So this is for you. We always wrote 4 as a number. So this is evolving. Maybe people are not using that anymore. So what we have developed internally is something what we call feedback-driven learning. So what it means is that when a model is live, right? Let's assume model is live today. For example, for an e-commerce chatbot. Quite a simple example, and generally, right, it's kind of attracting the younger generation, maybe 16 to 18-year-old. It's just the perfect target audience for that kind of shop. So now the younger generation is writing, okay, how are you with an R and a U? But maybe in the future they even come up with something else, right? So maybe some numbers or so. And for that to incorporate in your model, because your model will be outdated, right? As soon as the younger generation is writing in a different way, the model will be outdated and it cannot just process, it cannot understand what they want. So we have developed feedback-driven learning, what means that we constantly collect what a user is saying and then retrain the model every month, every 2 months, however often the customer wants. And that actually means that the end users are constantly giving the latest input to the model, and the model can retrain itself on that new data and can kind of keep up to date. So we constantly keep the latest data within the model and then also fine tune the model again and again and again to just keep up to date. And it's crucial in my opinion. You're totally right. Language is evolving. It's totally right that we need to do that.
Yeah, it's amazing that you are able to get on top of it, and you've worked out a way to find a solution to that issue. It's incredible. It sounds from what you're describing as though the data is really able to update itself and keep itself on top of the latest lingo.
Totally. It requires very efficient algorithms in the back end, because like you don't want to wait for a week, right? Sometimes some of these deep learning models, they are massive, they're really, really large. And just to update them or to train them, it takes multiple weeks. Literally a computer, even the most powerful computer on this planet, requires multiple weeks to train that. So when you want to, and obviously that's not like economically viable for any product, for any company, especially for a smaller company, to just like keep again every week training, costs me whatever 2,000 every day. It's just massive, right? So we have developed very efficient algorithms that retraining can happen in a matter of a few minutes. So it's really not that costly to retrain these models, and we just want to make it available to as many companies as possible.
It's great what you've done so far. And I understand as well that NeuralSpace now supports private cloud installations for customers concerned about data privacy, which is such a crucial thing in this day and age. I'd love to know if there are any other launches planned potentially in the next few months, or anything else we can look forward to seeing from NeuralSpace in the upcoming year.
Yeah, so we actually work on quite a big release right now, and will be in about 3 weeks, we will have it live. So at the moment, we have the NeuralSpace platform, and we have quite a lot of features already that are related to text analysis, right? So a chatbot is a great example, translation, something like Google Translate, what probably all of us have used before, we can already do, because it's text level data, right? And we have kind of done a decent job, in my opinion, on 95 languages so far. Obviously, we want to expand to a lot more languages. However, on the 95, we already do a quite decent job. What the next release will be about is all about voice and speech. So it's absolutely crucial, in my opinion. So there are we see more and more people being very interested in having kind of a virtual assistant that I can actually speak to. Maybe in the car, right? In the car, we've already seen it since a few years, in English at least, and in German, and in French, and in Spanish, in quite a, well, naive way, right? We can say, turn up the volume. Maybe we can say, navigate me to the next gas station. Yes, we can already do all of that. However, then, whatever, Chinese, different Indian languages, Arabic, maybe it's not available, or in an extremely simple manner. So we want to put that at a significant step ahead, and then really want to enable people to have kind of a conversation almost with your car and say, okay, I want to go to whatever, to the next restaurant. What kind of opportunities do you have? What kind of give me a route to it, give me the ranking of it, and let me know if I've been there before, right? So these kind of things, which is significantly more advanced than what is at the moment present. And we want to do that again in as many languages as possible. And when we work then with voice and speech, it's coming even more down to the kind of how language is evolving, the slang, right? Sometimes at least I find myself, when I speak to someone on the phone, I maybe use kind of more colloquial than when I write. So definitely that local language expertise and slang and evolution of language is even more crucial for spoken language. So we work on that at the moment. Initially, we will be live with something like 15 languages, and then we expand that a lot more. But in the first week of June is our release date. So we're looking forward to having our speech capabilities live.
Well, it's very exciting stuff. 1st of June, you just said, so you'll definitely keep an eye out there. And as you mentioned, yeah, definitely, speech and AI is just not as sophisticated as it should be. So we do look forward to seeing you expanding your range and really deepening that offering there. That'll be great to see. But it looks like you've got a lot going on this year, and we'll definitely keep an eye out for it. That said, thanks very much for sharing your insights with us today, Felix. It's been really great to have you on the show.
Thank you very much, Ollie.
Pleasure to have you on. Thanks for your time as well, viewers. That was Felix Laumann, CEO of NeuralSpace. And if you missed any part of that chat, you can catch the full interview on our YouTube channel at Kalkine Media, and make sure to subscribe. I'm Holly Shields, reminding you to stay apprised and invest wise with Kalkine.